Welcome to Tough Lies, the Golfers Podcast with Colin McDougall and Richard Zogel.
Well, how are you, everybody out there in golfer land? It's just a stunning day. I got a huge smile on my face, and for those who are, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see this yourself. I look like a bright red tomato because I covered myself with sunscreen, but it's so hot it didn't seem to matter. But it's another great day to talk golf. And welcome to Tough Lies, the Golfers Podcast with my partner in golf and crime, Richard Zogel. How are you, Richard?
I'm good, Colin. Glad you were able to get out on the golf course. That must have been fun. It was a gorgeous day up here in British Columbia.
Yeah,
spring
sure
has
was.
sprung, and you must have. Did you bring the golf course to its knees?
Well, I played a tournament. Shout out to 12 Sticks, who puts on a local circuit, which I have played several events and enjoy playing very much. And I shot 3 under par.
Yeah.
If I lived in Shawinigan, Quebec, which is to say, I shot 77.
Quebec par 80.
Quebec
Got
par,
it.
yeah, 3 under.
A
Quebec
lot of our
par.
listeners don't know what Quebec par is.
Yeah, Quebec par, for those who are listening, is 80. And often the source of good comic jokes. But yeah, so I shot 3 under if I lived in Jonquière, or whatever. So, what a wonderful week, and I think it's fitting to talk about the RBC Heritage event, and I think we want to unpack a couple things about the course itself and a pretty wild kind of finish. Fitzpatrick had a lead, and it sort of caved in, and then hit an unreal shot in the playoff, and there we go. So your thoughts and reflections from this week at the RBC Heritage?
Yeah, under the category of what happened Sunday, and that was earlier today. As we're taping this thing now, yeah, it's RBC Heritage played at Hilton Head Island. Historically, the week after the Masters, it's a real special time on the PGA Tour, and it's now the dynamics of the RBC Heritage Classic has changed because it's a signature event, and in often the people were watching, they're hearing that it's a nice kind of vacation right after the Masters. What happens is the Masters, everyone gets a Mercedes-Benz to drive, and then after you're done with Augusta, the next Monday you drive down to Hilton Head, and it's the most beautiful drive through that, South Carolina, Georgia area, and it's wonderful. But so RBC again got a little bit of an unfortunate situation because Rory McIlroy didn't play this past week, and it's a signature event, and you're supposed to play. It will cost him. Remember last year when he chose to be the first guy to not play in a series event? In the players' program that they have, their player initiative program, where he was going to be bonus $12 million. Remember last year? They withheld 75%, so $3.5 million. He didn't have to pay that fine, but he forfeited receiving that money for a week off. He did the same thing this year. So I'm a little concerned with that. If you're RBC, it's not about the money. You want Rory McIlroy there, particularly what he did this past week.
Yeah.
And, once again, RBC gets a little short shrift, and that's unfortunate. No cut. Don't like that. Don't like the no cut thing on these series events, signature events. But we had the golf course is fantastic. I loved how it turned out. We can get in here and digest it and relive it. Go ahead.
Yeah, a lot of unpack. I mean, well, first of all, where are we putting Fitzpatrick in the hierarchy of the game right now? I mean, 2 wins in the last 5 weeks, and just looks like he's very comfortable and capable at the toughest moments. Clearly,
Yes.
and every time I look at him, it seems like he still looks like a kid. But he's clearly a very mature championship player, and I just wonder, what's the next level for him? I think he's
in it.
He's in it. I think he's gonna be in the multiple majors side of things. He's already got the one U.S. Open, and I think it's a huge future for him in the coming few years.
He's a hell of a player, and you know the way he managed. When you just watched him, how he played and won the U.S. Open at the Country Club at Brookline, yeah, it's very impressive. And you know how he gets in there. How do you describe Matt Fitzpatrick? Well, here's how you describe him as stoic. He's a tough competitor. He's got a lot of courage. He's very determined, and he's a big time player. And what I really loved about it, you know, like. He made, you know, bogey on the last hole. He stubbed that chip, and a lot of people are going to get on him for being a cross-handed chipper, and you know he is an excellent chipper. Now whether it's cross-handed or not, it exposed that situation. Mm-hmm. But he got pretty steely in the sudden death playoff. Hit a beautiful drive. And but you know he was getting heckled, or you know, by the crowd, USA, USA, and I tell you, there is, you know, Europeans love nothing more than to hear that chant because they get very motivated.
Oh yeah,
and so what did he do? He hit the most, like the 18th hole at Harbour Town. It's blowing right into them. It's a hard second shot. Everyone bails out to the right. And if you do, you're probably going to make a bogey. And he stuck that 4-iron, most beautiful hard 4-iron into the wind, 12 feet away, then buried that putt. So, and then at the end of, did you notice he looks back at the crowd. The crowd is silent. He gives it one of these things, and it's kind of the same thing from Matt Damon. And when he knocks on the window, he says, "Do you like apples?" He goes, "Sure, I love it." He goes, "Well, how do you like them apples?" That was the classic.
I made birdie. How do you like that?
Yeah. So you have to admire him. He's a big time player, and he's going to be around for many more majors.
Yeah. And you know, to your point, the irony to me of those people who go shouting USA, USA at that event, which is the sponsor is Royal Bank of Canada, you donkeys. Like, come on. It's like, really?
Yeah, it's just so uncouth is what it is. And you know, and it's, again, it's you know, beer flows and for whatever reason they seem to do it, but it just doesn't work. It's you know, it's unfortunate, but it's all those other stupid sayings that they say out there on the golf course as well.
Yeah. No question. So I think while we were on talking about Harbour Town, maybe we should spend a minute or two talking about the course itself, because I think, you know, in my mind, it's an interesting design in that you're even though you're very close to the water, like for those who haven't been to that region, it's literally on an island. But the vast majority of the holes are inland. Yeah,
there's only one hole on the water.
Yeah, there's like
18.
Well, I mean, if you count 17 coming out there, but yeah, I mean, basically, it's one hole is out on the coastline.
Yeah,
and
Calabogie Sound, and it's marsh. It's not really, you know, it's marsh. It's not really. But again, you get the weather. But go ahead.
Yeah, it seems like it's not, of course, almost you'd see in Florida. You know, where it's sort of very narrow, trees overhanging. You have to shape shots. I mean, the part I like about it is you have to have great command on the tee. And if you do, you can set yourself up very well. And it's not a bomb and gouge kind of place. Because you miss big, you're in deep trouble. And so there is a premium on accuracy off the tee, which I like. And you see players like, I mean, Harman didn't pull it out today, but I think that kind of player has a shot. You know,
you're right.
And
ball strikers.
But I was curious. You know, my take on the design is kind of like, I don't know. I guess I think I'm like lots of others, where it's the manufactured look of PTI golf courses just don't do it for me. You know, like it's sort of. If he could, at every opportunity he has to move earth, he moves it. And it's sort of, with that sort of piece of property, I think they could have made it a lot more
Hilton Head, it's on tour. It's one of my favorite places. Love it. We used to rent a house from a friend of mine in Toronto on the first hole during the whole week. And I love the golf course, and it happens to be a Pete Dye course. But if you ask me, do I like Pete Dye golf courses? I absolutely not. So this was kind of it was Jack's first working with Pete Dye, his first step into architecture, and it was built in 1969. Then Pete Dye got into 1974, started getting into this other stuff, and then connected with Dean Beeman. But it is a lovely golf course. It's a ball striker's golf course. You have to hit trajectories low. If you want to maximize the width of the fairway, you can't go up high, because quite often the branches on the trees on both sides of the fairway are a lot narrow corridor at the apex of a tee shot than low on the ground. So you're constantly, if you're a player that likes to hit through windows, like low, this, high, this, that type of thing, you're going to be rewarded, because you have to create shots, and it's more of that artistic side of it. Yeah. But then, so soon after that, Pete Dye got hooked up with Dean Beeman and started building these TPC stadium courses, and did a 180-degree turn from that type of shot makers golf courses. I did introduce at the time these bulkhead railroad ties, which was a first for him, and he kept it into the TPC courses, which is quite meaningless. It's okay, there's nothing wrong with that, but lovely golf course, and he evolved fantastic. But he turned into building these. He turned into Dr. Frankenstein. And he builds these golf courses that are just, PGA West, TPC Sawgrass, that are polar opposites of Hilton Head, Harbour Town links, that type of thing. And then now Davis Love has come in and done a renovation. Well, and keep in mind too, the golf course is called Harbour Town Golf Links, but it's not really a links. No. And I think, links is, on the coast, number one, in sandy soils, and no trees. And this thing is in a forest. So Davis Love comes in, and he renoed the golf course, and he put in a number of these sod revetted bunker faces. Not sure why he did that. Maybe to try and get it closer to Scotland, but I think the two things are very different. But the cool thing about Hilton Head and is the creativity that it forces you to play, and it gets you into to hitting, the flighting the ball either low or high, but you have to figure out what you're going to do to make the ball run up, even if you hit the middle of the fairway, because you're not always going to have a shot at the pin, even if you hit the middle of the fairway. Yeah,
that, and I don't know. How do you? Well, we can go off on a tangent there at some point down the line, I guess. I'm not personally, from a design perspective, I'm not a fan of having to shape shots from the middle of a fairway. Like, I think you should be able to play to the hole. If you went to all that, if you executed yourself off the tee and you're in the middle of the fairway, you ought to have, a playable shot to the flag. From there, now, is there anything else you want to talk about to wrap up the RBC? There, a couple Canadians well back in the pack. Nothing much to talk about there, really.
Pendrith shot 63 to finish like 58th or something like that. So we had a good final round.
Yeah, crazy good final round. That's right.
Which is good. Yeah, no, I think that Harbour Town, one of the best courses, one of the greatest places to be. Just love the place, and winning there would be a dream.
Yeah. I mean, to close that discussion, I mean, I agree with you that that 4-iron in the playoff is all you need to know, because he gave up 3 shots to sort of ultimately tie Sheffler, but then he went in the playoff and he got it done, and with panache. And so it wasn't a matter of sort of fear or choking or whatever. I think it was just poor execution, a bit of a bad break, and that's about it. But
he's a big time player.
A big time player. I did want to mention Senior PGA Championship was on this week. Stuart Sink wins going away.
He shot 63.
63 in the final. He 19 under total. Next best, Ben Crane, who's still playing golf really slowly, I guess. Came second. And then Pat Perez, interestingly, was in there at T5. And then the point I was going to make, obviously, congratulations, Stuart Sink. That's a huge win. I thought there was going to be a storyline I could bring up from a previous podcast. The one actually when you went down to take care of the cartels in Mexico there, I put a small segment in as you did that week, and my bit was along the lines of the missed opportunity around stories of people who make it onto the Champions Tour, the Senior Tour, at 50, who didn't have a professional golf career, but sort of worked all the way along. And I used Walt Zabriskie as the example, and I saw some names yesterday on the lead, that had the lead. I got Keith Horn, and there's a guy, and I'm going to pronounce the name wrong. I looked up the right pronunciation. Thamanoon Srirose from Thailand. And both of them had very high finishes, but they were very close to the lead yesterday. And I don't know the backstory, but my point would be, those are people we're not seeing on the Champions Tour. My guess is there's a wealth of what would be wonderful players and wonderful stories who could be on the Champions Tour, but they're prevented from doing so.
Yeah, well, it's a small, close shop. This isn't a PGA Tour Champions event. It's a PGA of America's event, so that's why they have 4 rounds. Yeah, that's why they're there. Yeah, and a cut, and there's a lot. If you go down the names, like the Champions Tour only has like 75 players. Yeah, and this has a full field of probably 150, I would guess. But and I think the future for the PGA Tour Champions, and I turned it on Saturday. And when I, late in the round as the players were finishing, and there was no one there. There was no one in the stands. There was no one standing around. Yeah. It was empty. So I'm not that interested in the PGA Tour Champions. I mean, they're all my friends. I played golf with them, but I'm not, the level of golf or that type of golf doesn't resonate as much with me. Now, the Senior U.S. Open does. I'm interested in that, but my desire for it is not there.
I would say, again, we could go on a long discussion, but I think the reason why there isn't much interest is because the PGA Tour and the Champions Tour have never done a great job telling stories. We're seeing better versions, like I said, on Netflix with Full Swing. And so it's tough to get people engaged and interested in Champions Tour golf, because there's just not, it doesn't seem like there's anyone leading behind it, trying to get people excited about it. I think there would be lots of people who would enjoy engaging with that content, but it's just not captured very well, not delivered very well, and clearly not a priority for the PGA Tour. And here we are. So, and I think it would be galvanized somewhat if you had some people who made it from the, who had call it, quote unquote, a regular life for years, and then trained and worked at it and qualified and earned their way onto the Champions Tour.
Well, and also the star power just is there. When it started, there was, Arnold Palmer and Lee Trevino, those some big names that really pushed it. There's not really, the big name is Bernhard Langer, and, but he doesn't really drive the needle as well. So there's some, it's image or lack of is its challenge. And, I think it's getting a little long in the tooth, perhaps.
Yeah. It needs a refresh or something for sure. Also wanted to mention Anna Green, Se Young Kim went to a playoff at the, I'm just pulling it up here, Jam Eagle LA Championship presented by Plastbro. And Hannah Green won with a birdie in the first playoff hole. So congratulations to her at 17 under par. Great score. I think the deep dive we wanted to get into today, which I'm very excited about talking about, is not that I'm happy necessarily that of the demise of Live Golf, but there is reporting that initially it was kind of it's basically being cut off. The Saudi investment funds pulled its fund. Now
Well, it's still
they're running
speculation,
for
right?
speculation. Now the CEO who replaced Greg Norman comes on and says, no, we're good to the end of the year. But initially, the funding was meant to be through 2032, and a lot of media conjecture has been put out there around, is this the beginning of the end of Live Golf? And so I wanted to unpack that a little bit in our deeper dive today and get your initial thoughts on. Let's say for this sake of argument, it is on its last legs. It is going to conclude at the end of this year, as reports suggest. What do you think the implications are as it pertains to professional golf?
Well, first of all, it's going to cause a lot of naysayers right from the start, like Brandel Chambly, that they were right on the money.
Right.
And the smell from this thing right from the start,
Right.
raises flags and raises questions.
Right.
The big issue that if it's true that Liv is on life support, and the thing is, in what they say, I mean, how can you believe what comes out of the Saudi camp? I think they'll spin it any which way they want to. There's about 50 players that moved over to play for Liv.
That's right.
And so what are they going to do? So if they're going to incorporate and come back, how are they going to do that? Because those spots, those 50 spots, there's 50 some odd spots, those are to been taken. And with the reduction in size on fields that Brian Rolap is considering, how do you get these guys in? So what I'm thinking is they're going to be fined. They're going to have to deal with fines. If they gave up their membership, then they don't have to pay a fine. If they're still PGA Tour members, they're going to have to, Brooks Koepka paid $5 million, and there's a suspension. Pat Perez, he sat out a year. You have to sit out a year, and then so I think there's a window. We talked earlier about what was created, the returning members program that only applied to a couple of people. So if you look at that, there are two people that are eligible for that: John Rahm and Bryson DeChambeau. And that window or that precedent that has been set means if you've won a major championship after 2022, then you're still an exempt player. You have an exemption. You're categorized. You're still exempt from the PGA Tour as long as get back in good standings, pay the fine and suspension. Then you're going to get it back. But most of these other guys, they're not major champion winners, so the window doesn't apply to them. Right. And if you're a previous PGA Tour winner, well, you only get a 2-year exemption now.
Right.
So that time has come and gone. Those players are going to have to go back to the qualifying school, and the Corn Ferry Tour get sponsor exemptions and try and earn their way back, because I think all the other players that were given an opportunity that decided not to, they're not going to want these people to just jump the queue in front of them. There has to be consequences that come with that risk and that decision. I think it'll end Phil Mickelson's time, because what's he going to do? Is he doesn't fit in that window from that. His last major win. So it's going to be interesting. But I think Brian Rolap will look at it and go, okay, how do we optimize? He's going to look at Bryson DeChambeau and John Rahm as an asset. He's going to probably want them to come on board, and I get that. He's got to do everything he can to get the PGA Tour strong as possible. And so I look forward to understanding about how they're going to deal with this situation and come out ahead.
I'm going to I'm going to spend even sort of more of my available bandwidth trying to think through all the elements that are going to be part of this, because I think there's a lot of interesting moving parts in terms of what may unfold. But let's, again, using that logic of, okay, they're done at the end of the year, what happens? In tandem with that, we're going to see a reduced volume of PGA Tour events down to 20 or 22, right? That's it.
Yep. Then the majors.
And the preponderance of them are going to be in the United States. And so I look at it and say, well, and then, yes, there is the DP World Tour, and it does go around the world. As you mentioned off air, for those who don't know, it's 40% owned by the PGA Tour, the DP World Tour, right? So there are sort of there is a interest in sort of called not overlapping the Venn diagram of events, right? And then you're going to have this collection of some clearly better players and some, pretty good, and some names that are sort of were at the end of their time, all sort of looking for housing on the, as it pertains to where they're going to play. And there's a desire by the tour to want to punish those who defected and left. And I've heard discussions online about how this is sort of a delicious moment for the tour because they're going to be able to sort of really stick it to the people who abandon them, or sort of, that sort of thing, which I don't think is necessarily great form. But my initial thought was there ought to be, when you think about a 52-week year, core golfers are interested in watching golf every weekend, and when you scale back the event volume on the PGA Tour, where yes, the best players are playing, you're really, I think, still leaving yourself open for either, some sort of offsetting calendar approach by either another new entrant. There's nothing stopping somebody. If you're talking about the PGA Tour going with a private equity group of partners, there's nothing stopping the same thing happening with another equity group who says, well, wait a second, there's a big world. There are a lot of great players, and I see all kinds of quicks sort of highlight. There's strategy opportunities that abound in my point of view. There's you look at the top tier college players now are really, really good, right? And I would, if I was looking at it, I'd be trying to lock up college players. I mean, you're seeing players coming out and playing professional basketball, football after a year, 2 years, whatever. Anyways, I feel like there's going to be a hole in the market, ironically left by the departure of LIV, that may be filled some other way. Now, we'll see.
Yeah, I'll push back a little bit on that. I think that there's such, the LIV group. They had an executive meeting in New York this past week, and they're talking about going out and raising money and how they bringing in private equity. Boy, the model that they put out obviously didn't work, because how many billions did they lose? And if you're gonna go that private equity route, you got to show a bloody model that makes money, because how they get their return on it. And I don't know how that's going to happen. It's interesting. Like this Michael Lasasso, he came out of college, just like right out of college onto LIV. He didn't, so he's not a PGA Tour member.
Right.
And a lot of these guys, they're all good. They've always been good coming out of college, but there's still a level of they've got to hone their game. It's kind of like if you get into how many people come out on a like Wayne Gretzky type of thing, and there's not many, but there's the odd one. I mean, we had Tiger Woods and that type of thing, but most of the time the majority of players come out and they got to learn how to play. They got to learn how to play at professional golf, and they come out seriously talented, but once they kind of learn it and the naivety goes away, they get hardened pretty damn fast. And so it's going to be fantastic to watch and see, but boy, it's I don't know that there's going to be a lineup of people that are going to be interested in wanting to compete in a professional event that's going to compete against the PGA Tour.
Well, but yes, do I see somebody going sort of necessarily directly head to head in the way in which Liv was trying to do it. I mean, let's face it, Liv basically was the bull in the china shop, sort of sloshing around thinking, well, we'll just bleed you dry because we got more money and we'll last longer and we'll buy every player, and that's the way, ultimately it will work. And I think, that what also could be the case too. It's interesting. Like I said, I'm sort of awash with the thoughts. Is it very well could be that MBS and the investment fund changes their mind at the end of the year and says we're going to keep going.
What if they say, hold on here? You know what? We need an announcement here. We're gonna double down. We're doubling everything.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's equally possible. Maybe not equally likely, but it's certainly possible that they're like, you know what? Yeah, we changed our mind because the amount of money to them is so nominal, right? We see it as, they got these huge losses and all that. But when you got a value, a market value of $1 trillion and you lose, $1 billion or 2 or 3 or 4, that's a rounding error.
It doesn't matter.
It just doesn't matter.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I sort of, I've always felt the errors with Liv are sort of obvious. Like if they went to 72 hole events, if they went to I think this shotgun starts among the stupidest things I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to pro golf, like the idea you go to tournaments, some guy wins on 12 and you're on the 18th green on the last day is crazy to me. Like that sort of simple stuff can be fixed format wise. Yeah. The team stuff doesn't really work or jive. Like, but they could do some things to sort of call it, shape it up or tune it up so it is better done as a structure. Like they kind of went too far I think they could well hang in there. Anyways, so yeah, I think we'll have to put a pin in it because we could talk about it forever when it comes to Live Golf and its implications. But yeah, I just kept thinking, when I heard that news, okay, they got a year out. I guess the one way to think about it for me would be, is 22 events enough content in professional golf? I think people are I don't know that that's the case.
I think golf nuts like you and me and people who are listening to this, they watch golf every day.
Yeah.
But I think the big numbers there, where Roll-Up's trying to get to, he's going like it's going to be just the big. It's going to be the big, cities. So Toronto's going to get the event. We'll never see the Canadian Open, the RBC Canadian Open in Vancouver. It's not going to happen. It's not going to go to Montreal. It's going to stay in the GTA. That's going to happen. And so, they got to pull in all these other non-golfers, I think, in order to make the numbers climb and make it a big event and beyond golf.
Yeah. And one of the fascinating things you brought up in one of the earlier podcasts too, which again we can talk about down the line, is the notion of basically selling those events almost like franchise. It's a complete change of mindset and an upheaval of what we know and how things work. But when you step back, it kind of makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. It's just like golf is, there's not a lot of money to be made, And so we'll see. We'll see what happens because I think it's fascinating. You think it's fascinating. A lot of people think it's fascinating. And we'll learn more in the coming weeks, and then we'll see how it actually unfolds itself.
Yeah. We're going to put a post this week on our social at Tough Lights podcast on Instagram around sort of. I want to start a conversation with people who are listening as we are growing, which is really wonderful to see, and get people's input on what they think about, things like, the future of Live Golf, the PGA Tour, net rate number events, those sort of things. So let's start those conversations. We're going to take a break for a moment, and then we're going to come right back, and we're going to get into the MindTRAK moment, and then I have a story, recent one from around here, and about a local custom I had no idea about. So we're gonna touch on that when we come back. Tough Lies, the Golfers Podcast. We'll be right back. This episode of Tough Lies is brought to you by TrueSpec AI Yardage Intelligence. Most golfers use GPS. smart golfers use data. TrueSpec pairs high-resolution course mapping with AI-powered shot strategy through a mobile app that knows exactly where you are on the course, current wind conditions, elevation change, and most importantly, your shot tendencies. It doesn't just tell you the number, it recommends the club, the target, even the smart miss. All you have to do is execute. TrueSpec, AI yardage intelligence, because strategy should be automatic, pressure is not. Welcome back, everybody. So we're at Tough Lies, the Golfers podcast. Richard Zokel, Colin McDougall here, and we're going to dive into the MindTRAK mental moment in golf.
MindTRAK moment.
Richard, where are we going with it this week?
Well, the MindTRAK moment that I'm going to tell a story about involves the basic understanding that if you fail to prepare to fail. And I'm going to talk about a situation that I was in at the PGA Tour qualifying school in 1986. It was 6 rounds. It was in the desert. 4 rounds were played at the PGA West Stadium golf course. And the situation I was in, I had failed to prepare to get into the tournament. And what I mean by that, I had played the whole 1986 year on the PGA Tour very poorly. And I had a bad attitude. I didn't know why. I wasn't able to get out of it. I just wasn't prepared. In hindsight, I look back, I wasn't prepared. I was constantly, like every other golfer, worried about what may or may not happen. And I need to shoot this. I need to play this. My job is on the line. I'm married. I have to, prove to myself. And my mind was in a bad place. It was in a valley. And I stumbled into those valleys on the PGA Tour, and those, before I knew it, I stumbled out of them as well. So I was going into the qualifying school with a real bad dysfunctional attitude, which is not good. And sure, I was a seasoned PGA Tour player. So in the 6 rounds, play the last 2 rounds on PGA West, and I shoot. I actually managed myself really well. I was like in 10th place going into after 4 rounds. I shoot 75 in my 5th round. And I know, here's where my mind goes, where I'm failing to prepare to think properly. And I'm going, if I shoot a bad round tomorrow, I'm going to be in the death zone. And so here I go out there in the final round, and I play like I'm playing poorly on the front 9. My wife is in tears. She can see what's going on. She's being consoled by a friend. And by the way, this story is in the book. And I'm coming down the back 9, and it's awful. I don't like the thoughts, the feeling. I don't like the thoughts in my head. I don't like the feeling. And this is crazy. And I'm deep in golf insanity, like most all golfers. It's something that's really, really important. My job is on the line. 15th hole, I'm coming, and I'm choking my guts out. And this falls into Pete Dye and why we don't like his golf courses, and it ties into us earlier because it's on the Pete Dye's Frankenstein golf course. So 15, I make a par. 16 is a par 5, and Colin, I'm choking my guts out, and I've got a few holes to play, and I squeak this putt in for par on the 16th hole, the par 5. On 17 is an island green called Alcatraz. And it's a 160-yard shot, and I'm choking my guts out. And this is what Pete Dye's, and I really, felt Pete Dye's sadistic nature on this hole. And all you're trying to do is keep it out of the water. If you have a bad thought process, like keep it out of the water. How about that? And I hit a great shot, hit to the middle of the green, and I come off that shot, and I was just, and I say to myself, "Fuck you, Pete." And I just like the torture situation that I was in. And then I go down the 18th hole, and I just hate the feeling that I'm in. And I hit a tee shot way right, or just right of the fairway, and I'm coming into the second shot on the 18th hole, and I know that before I hit when I hit the green on 17, I hit a real bad putt, and I shook in a 4-footer, and that ball could have easily missed just as easily as gone in. It went in for a par. I knew that if I needed to make a par in the last hole to have a chance at least. And I remember just kind of looking at that situation, and I hated being in the situation that I was in, and I couldn't stand it. And I just said, to hell with this. I'm not going to, if I play safe or play the smart way, I'm going to leak this shot to the right. It's going to be on the right side. I'm not going to get it up and down. And I said, to hell with it. I need to break through the wall right now. And I just said, I don't care if I go down swinging. I don't care if this ball goes in the water. I don't care if this ball goes in the hole. I'm going to hit the shot I need to hit.
Right.
I had to break through that psychological wall, get comfortably numb, like the song, and I, instead of the 6-iron that I was going to hit short right to the middle of the green, I said, to hell with this. I pulled out my 5-iron, and I went right at the pin. It was just 3 steps off from the water, and I said, I don't care if this goes in the water. I need to break through this and not fall victim to this horrible state. I went through my routine, hit this shot, and I'm looking at my ball through its apex on this 5-iron that I'm hitting to my second shot, and it's going right at the pin. It ends up 7 feet from the hole, and I missed the putt, but I make it. And I remember leaving the qualifying school because it was just a horror show. People praying, people happy, people sad.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going back to the hotel, and I'm just going to go to sleep. My caddy calls me. And I said to him, says, I don't care. We're getting out of here. I don't care if I make it. I've had enough. I go back to the hotel room, fall asleep. He phones me 2 hours later. Joni, who picks up the phone, says, it's Bruce. Bruce says, Pro, we made it. And I said, I don't care. Hung up the phone and went back to sleep. I didn't care. So you have to have a system in order to get you through those tough times. If you don't, your mind will take you down rabbit holes, and you'll have to learn how to break through that emotional wall.
That's a great story. I mean, there's so many. It's when I hear you tell these sorts of stories, one thing that comes to my mind is the incredible self-awareness of what you're going through in those moments, which I think a lot of people don't necessarily.
Yeah, very true.
Most people aren't as aren't even as reflective as you, let alone as self-aware as you clearly are. And I really appreciate that about you. Like, I think it's a really admirable trait, and I think especially serves you well in a game like this.
Yeah. It's if you go down this road to play the game of golf, as I mentioned before so many times, we all. Scottie Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, we all hit way more bad shots than we do. And if you fail to prepare and prepare to, how you choose to deal with these situations, you're just going to repeat this over and over again. Golf insanity. And you've got to pull the plug on this at some point where you say, enough already. I can't stand it. I won't put up with it. And you do something about it.
Well, so I think we'll end out. So I wanted to share a couple of quick things as we wrap up.
Yes, let's hear this.
So it's so funny that you said the words comfortably numb, because I have this. So I played golf a couple of days ago, and I just joined a group. I'm a new guy here, so I didn't know. I just jumped on with a group and play with these 3 guys. And
okay,
there's the guy's name. It was like, and he if you wanted to sort of have a mental picture of what he looks exactly what you would think he would look like, twin engine golf cart, anyways, the cart was like, had like a pickup like a Tesla. I hurt my neck, but anyways, we're playing, and I played first couple holes, a couple pars, whatever, and then I get to third hole and fourth hole, I make a birdie, and get to the next tee, and he goes, time for some birdie juice. I said,
okay, one of those guys.
I had no idea. I feel badly because I'm just like, I guess, I don't know, I missed out on something, but I'm like, what do you mean? So you make a birdie, we do a shot. And I'm like, oh, okay. And it turns out all 3 of them have flasks in their bag,
Okay.
And so, one in, and I'm like, oh my God, like, we're on the 4th hole, and I just had a shot of, it's just not normally what the way I play it. Anyways, Long story short, I had 4 birdies and an eagle. My wife had to pick me up.
Oh, yes. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, it was like, oh my God. Literally, I'm texting my wife as we're playing, and she's like, I'm coming to pick you up. Like, I think that might be a good idea.
Are you sticking around with that group?
Yeah, exactly. So
Moving
anyways,
forward.
they're lovely guys. And actually, the one fellow, he said, doesn't brew beer, but brews spirits. And they actually make a product called Birdie Juice. And so he had
it's a common term for those guys who play golf for recreation.
But this is like a branded product. Anyways, so yeah, we had it all. I don't know if it's a good sign that I play better when I've had a few shots in me. But anyways, we'll learn more for next time. But last thought I had too. I couldn't resist. Brian Harman, his putter.
Yep.
I just think, is he like taking it from like it looks to me like he took time out from branding cows with that thing. Look, it's just like, I mean, that thing is huge.
Well, Brian's a small guy, so if he's not a very big guy.
No,
but,
he's just,
But yeah, the putter, in order to get the maximized peripheral weighting, that the technology on all these spider putters and all that stuff is. You're right. It does look more like a branding iron than
branding iron, or he's making waffles at home with it or something. I don't know. Anyway,
fighting off rattlesnakes or something.
Yeah, something. Anyways, well, another wonderful discussion, another great episode of Tough Lies. As I mentioned, I came back. I actually had a shower, got my hair in shape, so we're all looking good this week. Wanted to say to everybody listening, thank you very much for doing so. Make sure you follow us. Toughliespodcast.transistor.fm is our website. At Tough Lies Podcast on Instagram. This week, we're going to try to do some more engagement. Our audience is growing, so we want to do some more to keep that going. And in particular, we're going to do a couple posts around people's general thoughts on LIV golf, because I think this is going to be a story that we're going to see through the rest of the year. And I'm very interested in hearing people's perspectives on it. So thanks again. Great to see you, Richard, and look forward to doing it again all next week.
Thanks so much, and watch out for the birdie juice or make some bogeys.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a lose-lose. It's a win-win, lose-lose situation for you.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Exactly, 100%.
Thanks, Colin.
Thanks. All the best.
Bye.
Join us next week on the Golfers Podcast with Richard Zokel and Colin McDougall.